Hello. So I have proved in the past to be sort of a streaming noob here. So if you notice anything weird or wrong or anything with this stream, let me know in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. I think I have things figured out this time. There should be stereo audio and things that are actually good this time. So, okay, so I apologize if there are any bumps. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I've learned from past streams at this point. So before we get started here, I wanted to take a minute to call out my new series, Mastering Figma. The topic of this live stream is going to be talking about Figma, why I like it so much. I'm going to be showing off some of my own components and design sort of workflow within Figma. I'm going to be taking some things that are not good in my Figma files and showing you how to make them better in various ways. And I'm just going to be talking a little bit about the general things I like about it and why it makes my life a little bit better every single day. So Mastering Figma is available for Level Up Pros right now, or you get a 5-video preview on the YouTube channel, or you can purchase it outright, link in the description of this live stream. Like I said, Figma is a great application, and one of the best parts about it is you don't have to pay anything to get started. So if you download Figma and you want to learn it, just download it or even use it in the browser and just play around with it. I can guarantee you're going to like it. Okay, so check it out. Um, let's see here. This is my Figma file here. And this sort of just started out as like a way that I sort of just throw everything into a file. I started with a screenshot of just the site here, and then I threw a giant white rectangle over to the top of it so I could start to manipulate this. And obviously, things are changing now. So I'm going to be doing much more of rebuilding the entire site in Figma. Now, one of the really cool things about doing that is that my site is React based. And React and many of these new web frameworks, they think about everything in components. And in Figma, you really end up thinking about things in components as well. So what I'll be doing is essentially talking a little bit about how I'm re-envisioning components on my site via components in Figma. So as you can see here, I just have this blank page here. This is sort of how it started. And then I would take this and I would do things like just throw stuff on top of this. So this is that same shell. Somebody says broadcasting in 480p. I don't think I am, but I should be broadcasting in. Yeah, let me double check. Audio bit rates. Yeah, this says I am. Unless I have this wrong. So everyone is saying it is 480. Okay, again, apologize if there are hiccups here. This is my first time streaming on this computer, so I thought I had things set up here. Maybe not. Hold on one second. Let me do something real quick. Oh god. Okay. OBX. Let's see. Or OBS is telling me that I cannot. Let's change this. Okay, once again, apologizing for this live stream sort of 480p issue. I'm trying to figure it out here. If anyone is used to using OBS, tell me here what I can be doing to get this to change to something not 480, because I thought I had it set up correctly. In the meantime, while I'm looking for these settings, I can talk while I continue to look. I'll do a little bit of double tasking here. Really, so let me talk a little bit about why I use Figma over something else. Maybe the differences between Sketch or some of these other applications. Some of the biggest reasons why I use Figma over Sketch, besides the just general interface of it and stuff like that, is that it allows for like really great collaboration tools. It's like Google Doc-like collaboration tools where people can have both of their mice on the screen at the same time. People can edit the same document. You can leave comments about it. It's also cross-platform, so if you're in a design agency or something like that where people want to use their own tools, whether that's Windows, Mac, whatever, or your developers are on a Linux platform instead of a Windows or a Mac, everyone can use the same files and be super happy. So really, there's a lot of great things about it being cross-platform that come along with that, but the collaboration tools are really second to none. It's just absolutely excellent. Streaming service. Like I said, if anybody knows how to use OBS, I can't get this to output in anything other than 480. So we might have to deal with 480 right now. I have no idea why it's making that happen. Yeah, hold on, hang tight. I'm trying to get this video not be 480. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can just pause this and come right back here. Okay, can everybody see things? Let me make this fit in here in the middle. Okay, so are we now better than 480? I set it to 1080. Okay, perfect. Okay, I promise this is the last time I have stream issues because it's officially set up on this computer. I don't have to touch anymore. Okay, super cool. Okay, so back to Figma here. So yeah, so I mentioned before, its collaboration tools are just really unrivaled. It's absolutely excellent. And you can see I have my like little thumbnail up top here in the top right, and that shows my view. If as many people are working on this, they'll all show up along the top here, and you can even view the file as them. It's pretty darn magnificent. Not to mention, but your stuff's all stored in the cloud. Like if you go to your files here, I have a whole bunch of files, and this stuff's all available to me anywhere. And if I were to share any of these files, other people could have access to them, and it would be excellent, right? Okay, so here's my file, right? And as you can see, I basically just took a screenshot of my site and just started overlaying some stuff on top of here. And for the most part, this app looks a lot like Sketch and all sorts of stuff like that, but there's a lot of like little key differences and stuff in the interface that make it really super nice. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about component-based design. So in components, whether it's React or whatever, you start thinking about these either small or micro components, macro components, and stuff like that. And you can build this system that moves up from there. And then if you think about it, you can map these components one-to-one to your React components, whether you're using styled components like I am or something like that. You have these component-based workflows, and for reasons like that, components in Figma work very nicely. So let's scroll up top here. You can see I'm building out some of my components. So I have like basic typography stuff. You may recognize some of this from my homepage, where I have like my main zone headers and my subtext and my paragraph text, and I have these card headers. And then I have my collection of buttons, right? I have all sorts of different types of buttons. I have badges, I have cards, I have all sorts of stuff over here. Now what's cool about these components in Figma, or these reusable components, is that after you create one of these components, changing them and manipulating them and whatever is just super easy, especially compared to Sketch, right? So in Sketch, you had your master symbol, right? And then if you wanted to change something on that symbol, whether it was text or whatever, the interface for it wasn't necessarily the same as the interface for everything else. For instance, I have this button here, and like if I make a copy of it by holding Option and dragging, I can treat this, even though it's a sub-component, right? It's a child of this master component. I can treat this as sort of its own thing, and I can come in here. Let me select I'm selecting the text right now. Oh no, I'm selecting the rectangle. You can change the color on it to be like this big red button with white text, and that's all fine. You're treating it like it's its own thing, right? I could even change the dimensions or size of this thing, and based on my constraints that you have set up for it, it's going to know what to do. Like right now, it's keeping this sort of margin at a certain point, so when it hits here, it goes to a second line. Now I can mess with those margins a little bit so it can go a little bit further towards the edge, but that's super nice here. Oh, broadcast cursor. That is a good point. Sorry, totally new to this broadcasting thing. This thing is my only like fourth one, so I might need to figure that out. As always, having issues. Hide cursor. Sorry, looking for where to do that. Yeah, I honestly have no idea where to turn on that cursor thing. So at this current moment, I'm just going to hang out and try to do my best by maybe moving things around to let you know what I'm talking about. So here, like I mentioned before, in Sketch, the interface for modifying this component isn't necessarily the same, right? You have to go into a text box over here and change things to say, what the actual text is. But here I can double click on the text itself, and I can just change this text as if it were totally it's its own thing. So I could just say stop, and now all of a sudden this button has changed the text to stop, and I did it through the same interface that I would typically do anything else. And the component system is really super great for that reason alone, right? Because you can take this sort of same workflow and manipulate these child components while still maintaining some of the important stuff that makes them what they are. Like for instance, if I were to select this master component here, this big blue one, and I were to change the dimensions of its box to scale directly to the edges, maybe let's center this here, that's too much. If I were to, I should just hold Option and do this. Okay, so if I were to change the dimensions of this text box to actually match this, then all of these all of a sudden have that same constraint attached to it. And now when I resize this stop button, I can resize it all the way until the text touches the edge here. So the constraint system is just super nice. There's a whole video on constraints, maybe even a couple of them, to be honest, because it's just, yeah, there's 2 videos on constraints because it's such a cool feature. I mean, it's a similar thing exists in Sketch and sort of pinning things in different places, but for the most part, I've found this interface to be a lot nicer. And I think that this sort of holds true in Figma for a lot of things. The interface is just really super great. So So I'm thinking in components here, right? I have these components and I say, here are my buttons, or here are my variations of my buttons. And if I want to start turning these into styled components in React or something, I can select my button and I can hit this code tab in the far right and then select these code brackets. Let me select this rectangle here, and I can actually get real CSS code that I can copy and paste out of here and throw directly into my styled component. So more just thinking about components, it allows you to build in components and then take that information that you've gained through this component and move it directly into your code. So I found, as someone who does a lot of React-based stuff, I found just a lot of these little niceties to be big time savers in my life, especially thinking about components now from a totally different way. Because when you write your CSS, especially in a big site, it can just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and eventually can get totally unruly. So what this sort of design system and building in a component-based system is going to really allow you to think of things for a more global sort of perspective. So let me come out here. You can see I've built all of my typography. One thing that Figma is currently lacking is text styles, because currently just doesn't have text styles. But I'm confident that text styles will be coming to Figma. You know, this team is one of these things that we're like. I mean, I don't know that, but everything that you ask of this team, they're like on it like crazy. So you should see the amount of features that are like constantly coming to Figma. Somebody's saying it's 480p. I think that's a setting that you might need to change. I'm broadcasting up to 1080, 60 frames. So that 480 is not coming from me here. So there's no text styles right now, but hopefully they come soon. Hopefully they come at all. I can imagine that they will. Like I said, this Figma team is adding new features to this site or this app every single day. I like come in here and see something new. So also check it out. I have a few more components here. I have my card component. I have this card, a different kind of card. And then I have my badge. I have like a little icon here. And these things can all be made of components and subcomponents and stuff like that. And I show some examples where we actually build some of these card type things where you can build these really, really complex components that offer a whole bunch of different things, and you can resize them and everything stays and looks nice. So yeah, here you can see I built out some zones. These are all, what's cool is that these are components of components, right? So this paragraph text is a component itself. This subtext, teaser text is a component itself. This is a component itself. This button is a component. And then I turned this entire zone into a component. So this zone has now become a component, and then I've duplicated this, and these are all subcomponents. You can see I changed the colors and everything like that, no biggie. But what's cool is that they all retain their component quality features. So of course, if I wanted to just all of a sudden move this button over to the right side for all of these, because it's the same button, you can see it updates nice and easy on everything like that. So it's really super powerful to have components and subcomponents and sub-subcomponents and stuff like that. Now, you can see here I'm starting to work on some new designs, and what this allowed me to do was clean up some stuff. So I was basically working with some text or some designs that didn't necessarily, you're designing in things, and it's really easy to sort of get out of your components because you just start tweaking things and manipulating things, and then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of new styles, and maybe that doesn't necessarily fit your type hierarchy or your component hierarchy. So it's really nice that you can build up this component library in Figma and then only use those Lego pieces that you've built or your team's built together. Okay. So yeah, so you can see here's the live streaming video player. I'm working on this update right now. This obviously is very rough, but it's going to be really cool when it's done. Not yet. Here you can see the shopping cart, which is live on the site right now. I designed it within Figma here. Again, a lot of components, subcomponents, and what's really cool is being able to take these with you. Okay, so Again, this document here is just a bunch of design ideas. It's available for like I said before, it's available for Mac, Windows, Linux, because it's available in the browser. So you can use it in the web app, or there's a desktop app for Windows or Mac. So I use the desktop app because it's nice, and I like desktop apps. But if I'm ever somewhere, I can always log into my Figma account online and use that. Love it, love it, love it. So yeah, so this is pretty much how I'm using Figma. But let's talk about some ways that I could be doing things better here, right? So for instance, let's say I came into a new document. Let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to head to the file browser, and I'm just going to create a new file for this stream. And I'm going to just, let's say this is an entirely new section of the site. I want to keep this separate because that other document's getting kind of unruly. Let's talk about designing a new, we'll just talk about designing a new products page or something like that. And I want all of a sudden to start using my buttons, components, and anything like that. And how do I get them in here? You could always copy and paste them and stuff like that, create a new component, and then have this component live there. But if you're paying for a team account on Figma, you get access to this team component sharing features that I use pretty much constantly within projects. So for instance, if I wanted to bring this, let's call this, it's right now it's just named group, it should be just called card. If I wanted to bring this card with me to the other file, I could come in here to this components tab in the bottom left. I can see all of my components, and I can right click on this and I can select to publish this component. And what this does is it publishes it to this team library, and everyone has access to this team library, and these components can update across hundreds of files or as many files as you like, right? So if you start using these components in other files and you make a modification somewhere to the master component, you can filter those updates out. So here, like I said, I have this new page here. I'm going to create a new frame, which is the Figma version of artboards. And I wanted to just use this new component. I could come in here to my team library in the bottom left. I could head to level up design ideas, and you can see I have my card right here. I can just drag it and drop it on here, and I now have this component in an entirely separate file. So from here, it's super cool. I can, if I need to edit this master component, I can right click it and tell it to go to master component, and it's automatically going to find me that master component. I can make updates to it and stuff like that. So the team like the component team stuff is great. Even though I'm a one-man team here, if I were to bring on other people, I could tell them to design using these components I've already created, or I could give feedback on them and stuff like that. So what about this interface here? This interface is actually really cool. It offers you a lot of different things. So you'll notice right now this like background here on this card header is this gray color. It kind of looks ugly with this card. Maybe a white would stand out better or something like that. You can actually even change all that stuff simply by putting these in a frame and then changing the background color of the frame. Like, let me create a frame, the F key, and I were to put these components inside of this frame. If I were to change the background color to white, I guess white works best. You can see over here in this little update over here, it's now like the preview now has a white background. So it's super cool. And the components all get names based on whatever the component name is, or the component name, the folder name, any of that stuff, right? And they're grouped underneath the name of their frame. So let's see here. So you notice that over top here, the grouping says frame 2, and frame 2, we could change this name by my layers, and now this is just card components. I gotta spell components correctly. I don't have to, but and now that if we come to our team library stuff, you can see there underneath this header card components. So you can start building this like repertoire up of really awesome components. And you can see here I have a whole bunch of unpublished ones and stuff like that. And if I add all of these card components with this plus button, they all get saved to my team library. I come back over here. I think I might need to maybe refresh out of this. Oh, I'm sorry. I needed to publish these changes. It's going to give me a little dialog to let me know that, yeah, publish these changes. Okay, I'll come in here. Let's go to our components, and now I can use any of these components in this new file, just like that. Really easy. And let's see what else we got. Like I mentioned, grouping these components is like a really important and nice thing. So I had all these other ones under typography, but if you'll notice over here, if I were to publish each of these buttons, they'd sort of be on their own. So like a really nice way you can take this and make this to be a organized set of components is just by wrapping this in a frame and giving this frame a name that just says buttons. Okay? And now that this is named buttons, every single button I have is going to be underneath the heading of these buttons. I can add these to the library, and I can now have access to any of our buttons. I think I need to publish again, publish changes. I now have access to any of these buttons in this new file and can come in and just throw in a button anywhere I'd like. So this is all vector-based. It's basically a competitor to Illustrator, Sketch. It's very, very web forward thinking, web, anything like that, native app sort of stuff. In fact, there's some really, really cool features in here. Like if I were to select my icon, oh, that's actually not an SVG icon, but let's say I were to make an icon, you could copy the SVG directly from here. I guess this clock is an icon. Yes, this clock is an icon and not a screenshot. Let me head into my layers here, find this thing. So if I were wanting to like export this clock, see how I have the clock selected here? I can right click on this and say copy as SVG, and then when I would to paste this in, I could actually, since this is just SVG and this is text, this is a terrible idea, but I could just paste this in here. Let's see if it actually does this. Yeah, it actually did. So I copied this as SVG, and here it gives me my SVG code for that icon that you could paste into your text editor or whatever if you were using, if you weren't saving things as SVG and using inline SVG like I often do. So, so that's really cool, right? So basically this thing is pretty much a cross-platform Sketch competitor with a lot of cool features. Now it also has a bunch of interesting prototyping features too, where if you wanted to do like a presentation, this is not a super great example. I was coming up with an idea for an animation and I just illustrated it out different frames of how I wanted this animation to look. But if I go into this prototyping mode, and I wanted to basically where is my frames here? If I go into this prototyping mode and I start to drag arrows from one frame to the next frame, you can build actual design comps like you would in something like InVision. And even here's a fun example. If you actually select an object itself rather than the frame and connect it to the next one, it turns that into a hotspot. So if I do this presentation view, I click present, I can share people with this link. They can even follow along and they can click through this. I can click, and then on this last example, you'll notice clicking in the white doesn't take me to the fourth frame. So I can click in the purple and it takes me to the fourth frame because I set up that hotspot. And there's like a way you can even set it up to drive, right? Like if I share this link and then you all were to click on my icon, you would see what I'm doing rather than what you're doing. So I can just think of a billion reasons why this would work really well in a design sort of environment. And you can even leave comments on stuff here, like I hate this text, okay? And then users can see and comment on these and resolve them and stuff like that. Oh, just one of the things I like so much about this app is how web thinking it is, right? Especially if you design in things like a component-based React, Angular, or anything like that, it gets you really thinking exactly the same way you develop things. Cool, so this is pretty much how I use Figma. I create a library of my own components. Right now I'm in the process of translating my entire site into both styled components for React as well as components in Figma. And then that way any person who ever wants to jump on and do some design for me has all these building blocks to go off of. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Like I said, I'm a one-man team here, so the team features are excellent and great. Actually, let me even try to do something. This might be kind of funny. I'll try to do it off screen here. I'm going to sign in with my alternate Figma account, and I'll show you the multiplayer mode. They call it multiplayer. I have a fake name here. This is actually, let's see if this works. This is cool. Let's see if I can make her edit this. I have this fake name, Krista K. Brown. I got this off of a a name generator, so hopefully. Hopefully people don't have that actual real name. Let's see exactly what I can do here. Hold on one second. I'm just accepting this invite that I got, and we should see. Okay, cool. Okay, so you can see here I have a new little icon up top here, and this is Krista, which is fake name, fake photo. Well, it's a real person in the photo, but I got it from a photo thing. And yeah, you can see, check it out. This purple cursor has their name next to it. And hopefully you can see that with this. Is this not showing cursors at all? Well, that sucks. But, oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. So as you can see, there's like this purple cursor, and this is actually Krista K. Brown's cursor, and she can come in here and manipulate stuff and move stuff around. And this is me seeing the document, and this is seeing her manipulate it in real time. It's really cool. And she can do anything on here and share it and whatever. And if I wanted to see this through her eyes, I can just select her icon here. And now I'm seeing the site as Krista. I'm doing this on another monitor, by the way. So you can see as Krista zooms in, I can see exactly what she's seeing and what she's working on. Just really, really cool stuff, right? Like, I don't know how many design apps can do this. So this is sort of like, in my opinion, this is just like the most forward-thinking design app that's out. And not to mention, like I said, they update features on this thing like crazy. Like this whole team component library, this interface here didn't even exist when I started the tutorial series. In fact, if you look at like the first 10 videos, it's not even there. So like I said, this app is updating all the time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is how I use Figma. Like I said, I really, really enjoy using it. It lets me think component-based workflow and everything like that. So yeah, now I can take any questions if anyone has any about Figma, and I will do my best to answer those. What is a good workflow for taking a finished component and then creating a hosted style guide? So I guess it depends on if you want the style guide to be like code-based or visually based, right? For instance, for me, I translate all of these components into React styled components, and then I built this thing that iterates over all my styled components and then outputs them into a style guide. In a lot of ways, Figma can be used as a style guide, and so to illustrate that, let me show you something really cool here. So for instance, if I start making a style guide page like this that has my typography on this and stuff like that, you know, in the past you've maybe used something like Sketch Measure where you could come in here and measure everything, and you would have to have everything output visually that way. But if I was somebody who this document was shared with, and I was just viewing this, and I was sent this as a style guide. Check this out. If I select this text, instead of it being plastered on the design itself, I come here to my CSS or my whatever, and I get access to all the properties. I get the font family, I get the font size, the color. You can ignore the positioning stuff, obviously, because it's, you wouldn't want to absolutely position everything. But this function is very much like a style guide, except for you have the ability to really interact with it and actually get these properties in a really nice way. Other than that, I would say, turn these components into code and let the style guide maybe work for itself in the code. You could always output some of these values, copy and paste from here and stuff like that. But it gives you the option, right? You don't have to handwrite this stuff, and you don't have to do any of that. It's right here. Is there a way to create curved arrows? Struggling with one lately. So if you're referring to like an arrow where there's like a curved base to it, like if the line is curved, you could always use the pen tool. Let's see. Okay, let me bump up the, that is ugly. Okay. Apologize for this ugly line here. Let me bump up the weight here so we can see this in action. And we could actually come in here to these three dots, and you could give it a cap, which is an arrow. I think if we double click this and select one of the vector points, I think we can give this a cap, which would be a triangle arrow or line arrow. There we go. Cool. So yeah, so that's pretty much a curved arrow right here. You just make a line segment, and you make the line segment curved. Then you would select the individual vector point. You would click the three dots on the stroke menu, and then you would be able to change the cap of it. So that is that. So I showed the prototyping tools a little bit ago. Basically, you turn on the prototyping mode, which is just in this tab, and then whenever you select a frame, like frame 4 here, it comes up with a little node, and you can click and drag, and that's where it's going to move to when you click on it. Or if you were to select an object on the frame, you could do the same thing, and when you click on that object, it will be a hotspot. Okay, so let's see. Are you using this primarily to design components? Are you planning to use this as a test bed for assembling components? Yeah, so basically all of the above. I'm designing whole pages, components here. I'm using this as a test bed for assembling components into page layouts. So yeah, I'm definitely doing all of that. I'm in the process of rebuilding my entire site within Figma here as components. So when that happens, it'll be a lot more like just throwing Lego pieces around here and see how things work. And then I can test design systems. It's almost like designing in browser, because you're designing with these components, and it's much easier to just move stuff around with. So yeah, really cool. And if you keep that one-to-one relationship between your Figma components and your React styled components, then man, then you always know exactly what things are going to look like if you make changes here and there. Would you recommend Adobe Illustrator or Figma for icon design? You know what, I do very minimal icon design. I do like really super basic icons, and in that regard, you're not missing anything, I don't think, from Figma. You can do all of your same sort of like you can do your union tools, you can do all of the same kind of stuff you would do in within Illustrator, right? You can do all that same stuff. The pen tool is actually really super good. There's a lot of really nice features to it. You can do this like bending. Like if I make a straight line here, let's get out of this. Select this vector, bump this up. I don't know where this thing went. I lost it. Oh, it's white. That's why. You could select this line segment. Sorry, it's being a baby right now. Okay, I don't know what I'm trying to do here. I was just trying to bend this line segment, but oh, I'm sorry, there's like a bend tool where you can bend line segments and stuff like that. Of course, you need to select the tool before you can use it. It's a apparently an issue. So let me show you this in action then. Bend tool, I can grab one of these line segments and then just bend it. Really cool stuff. So in reality, I honestly don't know. Like I said, I don't do a ton of icon design, but for me, if I was creating an icon, the pen tool and the output to SVG features, like I showed before, where you could simply come in here and copy as SVG, like those things are great. The exporting features are really nice. I could just select this, click plus, SVG, export in SVG, just toss them out like nothing. So for me, yeah, I think it would suffice, especially because for an individual license, it's free, right? And I don't want to pay for Adobe. If you saw my video on how to mostly get off at Adobe, you'll notice I'm not the biggest Adobe fan myself. But that said, if whatever you're competent in and your work nice in is cool with me. Does Figma provide an API of any kind? Code output. I don't think they do. No, I'm going to say no. But there's this little question mark box down here that says help and feedback. And I found them to be really super responsive. So if you send them feedback through the app and say, hey, it would be really cool if there was like an API to extend, maybe export these components directly, maybe there's some way that would work. I actually really like that idea. Would you want to take screenshots from your style guide to be the finalized and fully rendered version of your components? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if you're keeping your components one-to-one with your styled components and stuff like that, then everything should like really connect really well. What are some useful settings changed from the default settings? I didn't change anything. I haven't changed any settings. I use everything the way it is. For the most part, your keyboard shortcuts work the same, right? For instance, in Sketch, you hit A to do artboards. And that's one of the cool things about Figma is they know a lot of people are coming from Sketch. So sure enough, the A key makes a frame, or the F key makes a frame too. F for frame and A for artboard, just because they know that people have that muscle memory ingrained. So yeah, I haven't changed any defaults. Everything out of the box fits my needs really well. Do you still use Sketch for anything, or do you only use Figma? I only use Figma. I don't know if I've opened Sketch since I got Figma. And one of the cooler things you can do is actually drag and drop a Sketch file directly into Figma, and it imports it. So yeah, I can open all of my Sketch files in Figma, no problem. And like I said, this is free for a single license, so you don't have to pay a yearly fee like you are for Sketch. Like, that might have been the big reason why I jumped off Sketch. I got the thing saying I all of a sudden had to pay a yearly license to get updates, and no thank you, to be honest. I mean, I like Sketch a lot. Everyone knows I like Sketch. But yeah, this fits my needs very nicely, and it can edit and work my Sketch files. So yeah. Thank you, Epic. And for full component in Figma, does the generated CSS also can include potential or positional CSS based on the constraints you've set up? I don't think so, but that would be awesome. Right now, what I've noticed is that, well, let me go to something that has constraints that I'm paying attention to. So this text definitely has constraints. If I were to go to the code mode, yeah, the position stuff right now is position absolute stuff. So I pretty much always just ignore everything. And they separate it out, which is nice too. They keep your text stuff here, they keep your color stuff here, and your position stuff here. I almost never copy anything from the position part, but it's nice that you don't have to go picking that stuff out. So it doesn't look like any of that constraint stuff, but it'll save you time with things like font weight, font size, colors, and text align, font style, all that sort of stuff. I think their whole take on this sort of section of the code is to not make it like straight up so that you can 100% never write code, but more or less that you can just save a little bit of time by supplementing your code writing with this. And in addition, there's also Swift. If you're an iOS developer, there's Swift code in here, and XML text views and stuff for Android if you're an Android developer. So they've really thought about it all. Another thing that I like about Figma compared to Sketch is just their attention to cross-platforms. I mean, more than half the world, I mean, so many people use Android phones, right? So the fact that they're including Android in their Mirror app, like there's the Sketch Mirror app where you can see your designs on the app. Well, the Figma Mirror app is for Android as well. And the artboard presets also have Android presets as well. So besides being cross-platform, they really think about other platforms, and that's one of the things I like about it. It's not sort of this iOS and OS X garden of only Apple stuff. So yeah, love it. For a full component in Figma, does the generate... Okay, I already asked that. Okay. Oh yeah, so that's pretty much it. If there's any last questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, this is pretty much Figma here. Also, maybe a quick sneak peek at, let's see this. I'm working on a new React series for everyone, and this is a little sneak peek. So this is sort of what I'm working on right now. It's going to be hitting APIs. It's going to be teaching React 16. It's going to be having all of that cool React stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of really interesting stuff in here for a beginner course. There's going to be there's going to be really just I don't know, more interesting stuff in a beginner course than normal. Like I'm going to show styled components. I'm going to show the latest version of React Router, hitting APIs and doing sort of nice stuff. So I'm really excited about this. Is going to be the next series for subscribers. The code's going to be really excellent, but it's going to be React basics, but doing excellent stuff in React while making it super easy to understand. So yeah, just a little sneak peek there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any more questions, yeah, I'll answer them. Otherwise, that's it. Check out Mastering Figma, become a pro on Level Up tutorials, and get access to all of the files from this. You get all of the Figma files, you get access to all the videos, everything like that. Super appreciate it. And yeah, super cool. So thank you so much for watching. And if that's it, I'm going to end this live stream and get back to work here. Great, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And next time, I will promise I won't have any resolution issues. We're going to be 1080p the whole way. So thanks, bye.